Hi, this is Phil Huber, pastor of Inlet Community Church. I'm grateful for another opportunity to bring some spiritual encouragement. I was at work one day this last week. I'm an essential employee, though that seems like a pretty loose definition of essential to me. But I was busy prepping for the day when a customer came in who is a server at one of the local restaurants that has shut down because of the coronavirus. She saw a friend and they were talking, and I was kind of listening in. The gist of the conversation was how anxious she was to get back to work. And I remember her saying with frustrated exasperation, "I wasn't made to not work." Well, despite the double negative, she sums up the frustration I think that many are feeling right now. We aren't made for idleness. Work is essential to our well-being. The fall of mankind is recorded for us in Genesis 3. This is when sin, corruption, brokenness, death, deterioration enter into creation. Everything that is sordid and soiled comes flooding in. We know what this is like. Every day, in countless ways, we are confronted by the fact that things are not as they should be. Now, even more so, coronavirus is an effect of sin, as is all sickness and disease and genetic conditions and birth defects. All these things that are destructive and disruptive, trace them back and you will find that they all germinate in the soil of sin. Not necessarily a one-to-one correspondence, this sin leading to this disease, but a culture of sin is the breeding ground of all this griminess. But before this, maybe surprisingly, in Genesis 1 and 2, when the earth is just being formed and sin has not yet grabbed hold of the reins to steer this wagon off the rails, while everything still is as it should be, when God can look at each thing that he has made and say that it is good, and look at the whole of all that he has created and say that it is very good. In the midst of that, work is central. It's a major theme of those pre-fall chapters. In Genesis 1, God works, steady and constant, 6 days of work to create a world that is ordered and abundant. He forms the world on days 1 through 3. He fills the world on days 4 through 6. And on day 7, he rests. Rests, the text says, from all the work of creating he had done. The work is good and meaningful and satisfying. The rest is holy and blessed. And the balance between these two is as it should be. This is fitting. It's a divine model. A model that then trickles down to humanity. In Genesis 2, we get a more detailed account of the creation of mankind, which is prefaced by this comment. Now, no shrub had yet appeared on the earth, and no plant had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no one to work the ground. God had done all the work in chapter 1, but now he needs someone to carry on the work, to work the land that he has created. He needs a gardener to tend the garden he has made. And so it goes on to say, then the Lord formed a man from the dust of the ground, as if to suggest that it is because he needed someone to work the ground that he created mankind. And of course, that's not the only reason, but clearly the two are linked. His having no one to work the ground, and his creating mankind. So, once created, we're told that the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. This is his role in creation. He will work the land. And the work that is modeled for us by God in creation is now handed on to mankind in works of recreation. They will take the raw materials that God provided and tend them. Adam is to plant, prune, cultivate, fertilize, water, harvest. Take a fertile land and bring fertility out of it to draw out the potential. So there it is, right in the middle of paradise, in this perfect picture of God's intentions for how things ought to be. Work. Surprise, work is not a four-letter word. Well, it is a four-letter word, but not that kind of four-letter word. It's a gift from God. It's part of his ideal. It is something that we were built for and something our loving Creator intends for our good. Of course, the fall and sin's entry into the world does affect our work, as it does everything else in our experience. Nothing is untouched by its reach. So as a result of sin, the curse is directed toward Adam's responsibility to work the land and to tend the garden. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food, until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. The curse brings hardship and struggle into the blessing of work. Thorns and thistles, painful toil and sweat. The work will not be easy. But even in that, there is still meaning and significance in our work. 3 times within the curse, there is the assurance that through that difficult labor, they will eat. Food will be produced. The work will be hard, but it will not be in vain. It will still produce nourishment for us. Ever since, our experience with work involves pain as well as pleasure, struggle and satisfaction, frustration and fulfillment. It's not all rosy. When the alarm goes off at 3:55 in the morning and I have to drag myself out of bed, or when I mess up a customer's order, or forget to pull out enough dough for the day, or knock the fresh-baked cookies off the cooling rack, or have to scrub the grease buildup off the interior of the oven. There are plenty of times when I feel the effects of the curse, but the work itself is still good and feels satisfying. When I've made a full case of food, when I can smell the fresh basil just as a new pie comes out of the oven, when a customer impulse buys a slice of pizza that I just put out because it looks so good. My work is a reflection of the image of God, who is a worker. Because of that, it has intrinsic value. It is part of the pre-fall created order. In various ways, God continues his creative, sustaining, and redeeming work through our labor, which gives our work dignity and purpose. God cares about the work that we do. And the reality is he's just as interested in my work as Fast Track Food Service Manager as he is in my work as pastor of Inlet Community Church. There is value in both. Of course, we should be honest workers, ethical workers, caring workers, faithful workers, salt and light workers. But we don't just honor God in how we do our work. We honor God in the work itself. I wonder if we've underestimated the psychological impact of this nationwide, or really worldwide, shutdown. So many people furloughed, or laid off, or reduced to limited hours. We weren't made not to work. We were designed to be productive. So what does that mean for us? And how can we counteract that while in shutdown mode? Let me encourage you that this need to be engaged in productive labor is not restricted to financially compensated labor. That is one outlet, and the one that often by default fills much of our week. But there are other ways. Even in this period of social distancing and New York on pause, you can still be productive. You can still work in a way that reflects God's image. Projects around the house or in the yard can be an outlet. Cleaning out the garage, organizing the closet, building that shelving unit that you've been meaning to, raking up the matted grass, vacuuming out the car from the winter debris. Learning can be an outlet, working on a new skill, developing a new hobby, picking up an instrument, or learning a new language, writing an article or a short story or a poem to be a creative outlet. Cooking and baking can be an outlet for the family or for friends and neighbors. The important thing is for you to keep your mind and your body active. We were made to produce, to create, to labor. One day of sleeping in and Netflix binging or web surfing is fine. We also need rest, but a week, a month, too much idle leisure will begin to undermine your sense of identity and purpose. You were designed for more than that. You were designed to be a worker.